Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I am Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I'm so excited about my guest today. It's going to be an awesome show. He has been an entrepreneur for like 12 companies and a longtime entrepreneur organization member, but he's best known for being a two-sport Division I collegiate athlete and coaching 12 years in professional baseball with 3 organizations, including, yes, I see it. Awesome. And I saw these in your photos. Awesome. 3 trips to the World Series, working with the Detroit Tigers, 2-time American League champion Cleveland Indians, and the world champion Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So I'm so excited to get him on here. But before I introduce him, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about him, you want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give a shout out to our friend Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Production. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Clow is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to upbeatmediapro.com. You know, I've said that thing so many times. I have it memorized, and every now and then I do that. It's like hilarious. All right, so we got to get the guest on the show. I think that's what I'm most excited about. So we can just put that other part in later. Trent Clark is the CEO of Leadershipity and founder of Courage Coach LLC. Having spent his adult livelihood among the top 1% producers in sports and business, Trent is dedicated to empowering people to reach their goals, peak performance, and attain their dreams. At Leadershipity, he says, we design, coach, and facilitate measurable training, education, assessments, and mentoring for personal leadership and team building programs worldwide. So Trent, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Jennifer. Super excited to be with you, actually, talking a little bit about Behind the Dreamers. I love the name of the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's so fun. Yeah, I like it. I have 2 shows. I love both of them. They're different. They kind of play off each other. But this one is so much fun because I get to talk to people that just have cool stories, that just have done like fun things. And that's what I like. I get inspired and I like sharing them. So it's fun.
Well, excited to join you. Hopefully I can meet the audience's needs to hear some cool stories.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. You've done some cool stuff. All right. So tell us a little bit about this Leadershipity. Like, what brought this about? Tell us what you're doing and what all this is about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the 11th company I started, and I got involved back in leadership just because it was kind of in my blood, always being around it with sports and baseball. I had this kind of audit of excellence as a kid where as a sophomore, my high school team went to the state finals for the first time, state championship, won the state championship. Then my junior, senior, we went back again. Then I went to junior college and played in the national championships in tennis, and then spent 3 more years playing college baseball, and then signed with the Detroit Tigers. And I was in the World Series twice in the next 4 years. So with the Indians, when I moved over to there, so I literally went to these championships, I think it was like 7 championships in 11 years. Wow. And it's the highest level of where you're at or where you're playing, and all this time I'm like going, hey, why do we win? Why do we lose? What's going on? Who's helping us? Who's not helping us? And I'm just doing this audit of excellence all the time of all these people around me. And so, I think it was just a natural fit for me to dive into leadership after, running a couple of businesses and making tons of mistakes, right? Tons of mistakes as a coach, tons of mistakes in business, and hopefully learning from those. That's really where it drew me in. And I had a first company, which was Leading with Courage Academy. And then I pivoted that back over to my own, with no partnerships in it, in Leadershipity, which was all the idiots of leadership, right? We all want our leaders to have integrity, and we want them to have accountability, and we want them to have dependability and coachability and diversity and unity. And of course, we all want productivity out of our leadership and our teams. And so we want all these idiots, and the reality is we're good at some of those things and some not so good, right? So we have to develop those idiots to really complete our team.
Yeah, yeah, no, this is good. And it's funny that you say that because I'm putting a program together that I've been working on since like October. And it's finally next week is like my deadline. This thing is going to be done. Like it's a beast. And I'm talking about like all the roles that we have as entrepreneurs because I spent 22 years in Mary Kay and in the top 2% of the company for quite some time. So I had to lead and manage and do all that leadership kind of stuff. So I had heard leadership for many, many years, but it's interesting. One of the very first things we learn in Mary Kay is all the roles of an entrepreneur. And you don't realize that
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, you have all these different roles, right? Like all these things you got to figure out. And you think, oh, well, I'm good at this. That's the only thing I'm going to have to do, right? But no, it doesn't work that way. And I tell this story about how, like one day I was on my treadmill. We don't have a treadmill anymore. We have another exercise machine, but I was on my treadmill and I was reading the Strength Finders book, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And I actually had to train on one of my 5, which is something on discipline because I'm very, very disciplined. And it was so funny because I was going through this and I had this like breakthrough moment as I'm walking on the treadmill and I'm flipping. I'm mad because I don't even feel like doing this. I don't care about reading about anybody else. I just want to read mine so I can get this done. And I'm like, we have all these roles that we're doing in the entrepreneur space. And I finally came to figure out, like, I knew what it was in that space that I was working that I just was not good at and what I was good at. And I was good at closing people and getting them across the finish line and helping them win. But when it came to all the other stuff, when they, the complaining and the moaning, and I had to like try to work them through that, like my brain would just go, next, I'm done. And so it was like I had this breakthrough moment. And so, yes, I think you need to know, all those roles that you have to play. And then you got to pair them and figure out where your strengths and your weaknesses are so you know how to navigate those roles, right?
For sure. And it's great that you identify like, hey, I'm not going to be the best CFO or HR person on my
Yes.
team. So I know what I need to hire for because I need someone good at that who's
Yeah.
going to really own that, take the ownership, be empathetic, and really be able to work with our team a lot better than I could. And I think that's just great insight for you to recognize like, hey, I can be still very successful and not be great at everything.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think you do. You have to because, especially if you're trying to build things out. The good thing about, I think, when you're starting out as an entrepreneur, it's okay to wear all those roles. But I think, as you start to grow, you start recognizing that, hey, where are you not so great? Where do you need to pick up people that can pick up those areas that they could actually find their strength in? And then they can help you be better at what you're doing as well. So,
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, business is a team sport, right?
yeah. Yeah. I think too, what I like about, it's funny that you even say that business is a team sport because I do bring a lot. My husband was an endurance athlete and I've run marathons. I haven't done sports like that, but I always feel like athleticism and playing sports and doing all this thing, there's a lot of skills in there that you learn that really are identical to what you learn in entrepreneurial the entrepreneurial journey. And so I bring a lot of athletes on here. It's funny. I've had some other professional players come on and we always talk about that. I had an Olympic gold medalist. I haven't released his episode yet. I got a boxer coming on that I'm excited to chat with because I always love to dig into the mindset because I'm like, there's so many things that I feel like are so very similar in those arenas. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, it's a lot of people who are trying to develop themselves. Um, athletics are great for that, like developing, and you have coaches that come along and they're helping you devise how to get better and how to learn and how you can learn faster, what I call hyperlearning. And man, I think that's so critical as people are out there going, hey, how can I apply this? And I see a lot of people who are very good in athletics and going, hey, I've really studied this, but I'm not going to be good in marketing, or I'm not going to be good in sales, or I'm not going to be good in financials. And I'm like, well, you know all the principles of how to learn.
Right.
And apply discipline and do a bunch of things that's going to serve you in any way. Like you want to be good at accounting, like get a coach, just like you did before to be great at volleyball or whatever it was. Right. So I think that people definitely discount that value, and it's a big one. It's a big one. And it's funny when I joined the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is worldwide 17,000 members, probably the most elite organization of owners in the world, and top 3% for sure. And I went to my first forum meeting with 9 other business people, and I don't think it was a happenstance that 5 of us had played sports in college.
Wow. Yeah. How fun. Yeah. Makes sense. And it's interesting too. I think, something you said earlier, I think having 12, companies and learning mistakes, I think that, that's a lot of companies that you've started there, and you definitely have to have that persistence and tenacity, because so many people get into the entrepreneur space. I love it. I say a lot of us are like serial entrepreneurs, like we got all kinds of things going on. I network a lot here. I'm in the Dallas area, and here we have so much networking, and it's so funny because I go to these networking and I'm like, so how do I want to introduce myself today? Because a lot of people know that I'm a podcaster, and that's probably what I'm predominantly known for, because my podcast show, everybody likes the show, so they talk about that. But I'm also a work-life strategist, and I have leadership and all this other stuff, But I think there's so much that we learn in this journey doing this, and that the talk that you're talking about, having that, what you learned in your background with sports and all of that, you bring that over, that helps you weather through all of this, because we are navigating this journey through entrepreneurship, and having the bit that you're saying, well, I went through these 12 companies, I learned things in the process, some were probably good. I think you learn all the time, right? Like, you're always learning, there's never a moment you're not, but some of those turns were probably not the way you wanted them to go, right? And so you have to have that tenacity
100%.
and persistence to keep weathering through that and being like, okay, I didn't get it right this time, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to start over, do the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so true. And you learn how to fail, and actually learn how to fail faster. Because when you fail fast, you learn fast. And so, and learning what doesn't work sometimes is sometimes the best lessons. And yeah, I'd love to tell you I have 12 brands that all just grew up and, sold them all for millions. And that is not the story, right? With me, I mean, there has been plenty of success and plenty of failure both, and learning some things along the way that were just incredibly hard. And I mean, loss of friendships, loss of a lot of money, literally making moves that people would never suggest anywhere in your financials, to start selling out your 401k to, put food on the table. I mean, there's some entrepreneurial things that you go through, and I'll tell you who is probably the biggest admiration of all the entrepreneurs and the athletes is their significant others, because to walk this path and this journey with idiots like myself is not easy. I mean, because it's like a glutton for punishment when things get hard. Now, it's the blessings are great. I mean, they're the highs are high and they're pretty awesome, but the lows are pretty low. I mean, it's a little bipolar.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Absolutely. Because you know what? Like, I like to keep it real here. And that's what I tell people, entrepreneurship is a journey, and you've got to weather all of it. I say it's like a roller coaster. Like, I had somebody come on one time, and I can't remember who it was. It's like, we were joking about this. We're like, when you start out as an entrepreneur, every day's a new day, but you always wake up broke. Like, you wake up the next day, that when you're starting out, right? You're always wake up broke, and you're thinking, how am I going to get the next dollar? How's it coming through today? Right. And so I think you just learn to weather that. Like, you become very industrious, I think is the word. That's what I feel like as an entrepreneur. You learn to be industrious.
Yeah, I think that's one of, that was one of Wooden's cornerstones, right, of the pyramid of success, was industriousness. And I don't think that was by accident, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, hey, you got to find a way. And, you may know that I have a podcast, which is Winners Find a Way. And that's based on that premise that from the 4 discipline execution, there's a great quote that said, winners, when shown data that they are losing, find a way to win. So we're right back to industriousness, whether that's, hey, I can't get this music piece right here for the orchestra, and I got to be able to do my role. I got to go home and practice. I might need a coach. I might need something else. I may have to take some extra time. I may have to get a new instrument that sounds better. Maybe the quality of my instrument's not there. Like, there's a lot of factors that you can do to make things better. And that's the biggest thing I want to surround myself with people that find a way to win. I mean, we're all going to get beat up. You are all going to get shown data that it's not going well, right? We're like, oh, I thought this was a really good idea. Jennifer, this is going to be great. And you're like, oh my gosh, we both thought this was going to be awesome. We suck at this. Like, this isn't going any way I thought it was going to go. Right. We're like, oh man, this is what, when we watch, we're such big football fans here in the US, right? That you watch these teams who are getting beat up at the half, and the coach says, hey, listen, these are the adjustments we're making, and now we need to execute on those adjustments. And we've worked hard in practice to do that. And you see a whole new team come out in the second half, and you're like, holy cow, that was like the tale of 2 different games. There's that bipolar showing up again, right? Like, it's, hey, you can make an adjustments. You can do things different. And so, I love that about, one of the things that really intrigues me about your show, Jennifer, that really just kind of hit home to me is I wanted to play in the big leagues. That was certainly my goal, to play a long
Right.
time and be a long time major leaguer. And, I got that call, when I was 23 years old that, hey, you'd probably make a good coach. And that was a job transition going on there. And I didn't know it because I thought, hey, I can still play. Right. But I was beat up, I was broke and needed some surgery. And so I had that done, but probably the comeback trail wasn't in my cards. And I had a degree, I had an education. So very quickly I pivoted from being a player to being a dream maker. And I created this environment where, like, hey, I can help as many people as I can get to what they want in life, to become the major leaguer, to make millions of dollars, make their parents proud, whatever their goal was. I got labeled as a young guy, obviously 3 World Series before I was 33 years old.
Wow.
And labeled as this guy who could really help people. And my blessing has been my network of people just like yourself, Jennifer, fabulous people that have been 1% achievers. And people go, wow, I'd love to learn from some of that. I'm like, well, have you listened to Jennifer Loden? Like, she's great at this. Like, you got to contact these people that are really good at these things, and they will help you. They will guide you. They will get you to where you want to go. But you got to do the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is so good. That was so good. I had a really good question for you, and I just totally got lost in all of that. That was good. That's what happens. I always listen to you guys talking. I'm having a moment right now. You're speaking my language. Absolutely. So, I think this is so interesting. You made this pivot, and I had somewhere I was going to go with that question. I had such a good question on that, but I'm going to backpedal. We're going to go a different direction. I do want to ask you this question. So, because I think this is a fun one. When you were young, because obviously you've been playing sports, and we all know that sports, it doesn't happen overnight that you get to these places.
Yeah.
So did you, like, at a very young age, were you just like, this is what you were doing? Like, you were playing sports, like you were all in it.
Yeah. I was that guy. Yeah.
Okay.
I was that guy that it was more important than school. I'll tell you that. Like, my quick story is that when I was 12 years old, I had a career day at school. An English teacher went in and said, hey, listen, what do you think life's going to be like when you're 30? I mean, I was like, come on, man, I'm 12 years old. Like, this is 1982.
Yeah.
By the way, I was going to turn 30 in 1999.
Okay.
And the song of the day was Prince's Party Like It's 1999. And I was like, yeah, that's like forever away. That's like the future song, And I was like, whatever, man. Like, but all of a sudden I took it seriously. One, because I liked the teacher, and two, because my 2 brothers were both, my one brother was already in college. He was at Michigan State. He was playing goalie, and he was trying to, get on that team. They were really good at hockey at the time. Mm-hmm. And then my other brother was an all-state tailback. He was being recruited heavily. My sister was just named Miss Michigan Teen, pageantry woman, really good spokesperson. And I was like, man, I'm way better than my brothers and my sister. Like, I'm going to play in the major leagues, And so I turned in my paper, and, here's these big 5 questions of what's life when you're 30, And, I hand it in. I'm sure the teacher's like, oh, yeah, hey, what do you want to be? Fireman, policeman,
Right.
Pro athlete, lawyer, whatever. And so, and never thought anything of it. And I was like, it shaped my life for me a little bit. It really kind of set me in like kind of first generation goal setting.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, the big event came when I got like the Willy Wonka golden ticket, I call it, where this former pro player ran this camp, and he made invites to the people for like 6 or 8 counties around us. And you had to get an invite to come to his camp because it was the best of the best. Kind of like a showcase now, but we didn't have them back then. So this was the early version of the showcase, right? And man, when I got my ticket, I was like, whoa, I'm in, man. And it was like, and then I see this fine print on the ticket that says like, hey, like when you go, if you're voted MVP, you get to sit down with the ex-pro player and have a one-on-one session. And I was like, I got to do that. So, I take the 5 weeks or 6 weeks before the camp, and I just prep, and, Jennifer, we know what happens when preparation meets opportunity, right? And I am just ready to go. I hit like almost 600 for the week. I have a great week, and I'm named most valuable player. And I sit down with a guy, and I'm like, man, this is awesome. So he goes, hey, Trent, what do you want to do? And I go, man, I want to do what you did. I want to play in the major leagues. And he was like, you can do that. And I was like, what? Really? And he's like, yeah, you can do it, I think. And I'm like, man, he goes, I've seen you all week, and I think you got what it takes. And I'm like, and I don't know, Jennifer, in a moment of courage, Like, I don't know what came across me, but I just said, sir, with all due respect, everybody else is telling me no. I'm not big enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not
Mm.
strong enough. And I'm even starting to tell myself I'm not enough. And he
Wow.
said, let me ask you a question, Trent. He said, who are these folks that are asking you? And I'm like, you mean like my mom, my freshman coach, like have a backup plan. I mean, no one's doing this in jest, in meanness, right? They're just saying
Right.
like, hey, this is a really small percentage, right? So he said, hey, listen, I got a question about all those people. Like, any of them play in the major leagues?
Bam.
I go, nope, no, sir. And he goes, I'm going to give you a lesson, Trent. I think you should take the rest of your life. And I have. He said, I'm going to caution you about where you get your information from, because you should go to people that have actually done what you're trying to do, because they will help you get there. And I'm like, amen, sir. I'm on it. Like, I got you. Like, and I have taken that lesson in so many things in entrepreneurship, man. I need help. And someone gives me oh, hey, you know what you need to do over at Mary Kay, Jennifer? What do you know about it, Trent?
Right.
Well, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Like, you don't know jack. Like, why would I listen to you about this unless you've proven to me
Right.
you've built and scaled this multi-level marketing campaign and how to do this really well? I don't know if you're the person I should be talking to. And so I've cut off a lot of people, but it was a huge thing for me back in that day. So I really wanted to be that athlete, and to tell you, to shape how those goals shaped. I came home in 1999 for Christmas and to see my folks, and my mom says, hey, this letter came from me from the school, which of course I thought was my college, saying, hey, you've done really well. Why don't you guys send the alumni some money? Right? And I'm like, no, she's like the grade school. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so my teacher says, I open this and he writes a handwritten note and my assignment's in there. And he goes, how'd you do?
Wow.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I looked at my wife and I go, oh my gosh, I totally remember this. This was such a big deal to me.
Yeah.
And the first question on there was, hey, what will you do after high school? And I said, well, I'll play baseball at Arizona State University, because they were the best school. And they never called. So I ended up playing at the University of Toledo, and I played two sports there, playing both tennis and baseball for the University of Toledo. And then the second question was, what will you be doing? And I said, I'll be playing pro baseball. And I was no longer playing. I was a coach with the Los Angeles Angels at that time. And then the third question was, where will you be living? And I said, well, I'll be living in a golf and tennis community in Arizona, because, the hell with Michigan. It was cold and I was tired of playing in the snow and everything else. And I just flew in the night before from my home in a golf and tennis community in Arizona, right by our spring training complex. And then the fourth thing was, would you be married, or what will your personal life be? And I said, I'd be married to a blonde girl that was taller than me. I'm 5'6". That wasn't hard to find, Jennifer, I'll be honest, but I did do that. I've been married to her, like almost 27 years now. And so, it's no joke. I did do that. And then we have a family. And I said, yeah, I'll have a son. And we brought my son Noah home for the holidays for his grandparents from Arizona. And he was 1.5 years. This was like his first Christmas, kind of really feeling the Santa thing and everything else. So, man, it was just a vision of like what I'd created when I was 12 years old, what I wanted, and how many decisions in my life shaped that. Like, hey, let's go get high. Let's go do something. I'm like, college coaches don't really want a problem, man. I can't get busted with weed. I can't. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to pass, guys. Go ahead, man. I'll catch up with you later. Like, no knock on my buddies and what they were doing. It was fine, but like, just wasn't for me, man. I couldn't afford it. And I knew what I wanted. So I got focused in on that.
Yeah, that is so crazy. Well, as you're saying that, the whole thing that's going through my mind is like this affirmation, right? Like you made this statement, this declaration of what you were going to do at like 12. And then all the subsequent things that you did really just came from that. It's crazy because I tell this story that nothing like yours, but I kind of did something similar. It wasn't way back, but I had gone through this coaching program in 2018. I did it right after I had come out of a nerve condition that I had reversed. I healed it, basically. It was like not something you do. And I figured out how to do this. And so I'm sitting in this conference and I'm like, I decided I was going to go through this whole, like, I call it sort of like I was going through this like spiritual journey sabbatical, but I was still working. I wasn't really taking this sabbatical, but I wrote out this affirmation. And at that time, I was still with Mary Kay. I did not have my book out yet. I had not formed my LLC. I had not started doing my podcast, but I had written out like 5 things on a piece of paper. And one of them was like, I would be speaking. One of them was I'd have a book. One of them was I'd be a coach. I'd been coaching for years in Mary Kay, but this was I was going to do my own thing. And I think the other 2 were something like maybe a beach house. I haven't done that one yet. That's still on my list. But funny enough, fast forward like 18 months, 2 years later, I'm coaching this client. I completely forgot I had written that down on paper. And I was in the middle of this like client session, and I pull this out while I'm working with her. And I'm like, Sandra, hold on a minute. I just found something so weird. Like I had this like moment, where I see this and I'm like, I just pulled out this affirmation that I had written like 2 years prior. And like 3 of the things had sort of like my podcast was coming by, like all this stuff had already happened by this point. And so the whole thing to this is that it's like this declaration that you put out there. And it's so crazy how all the little behaviors and the decisions, they all start like in alignment. They're not always linear, but they're in alignment with this declaration that you put out there, that you throw out into the world.
Yeah. And I think, and here's the huge thing about that, right? You make a commitment to that declaration, which is a big deal, by taking action, right? Committed is acting. Are you interested or you're committed? Interested is talking about it. Mm-hmm. Committed is doing it, right?
Yeah.
And so you make this commitment to this declaration, and then all of a sudden you'll see people in your life who are there. There's a young kid who lives down the street from you. Wow. Like Jennifer's a superpower entrepreneur, top salesperson, and he or she's walking down the street, want to talk to you about your success because they're trying to do something that is unique and 1% stuff. And so they want to talk to another 1%er.
Right.
And what happens with our declarations is when we put it out into the world and I say, hey, listen, I'll tell you, like, for example, Jennifer, I have an NIL education company. We're going to put 25,000 people on our NIL education platform in 2 years.
Wow.
And so I'm going to tell you that's what we're going to do. We're committed to that, right?
Awesome.
And so we're going to help a lot of young kids become entrepreneurs. That's what I'm going to do, right? And so I put that out to a powerful person like you, Jennifer, because it doesn't have to be your job. It doesn't have to be in your role, but someone's going to come and go, wow, hey, I've got some kids that need NIL education. You go, whoa, I know somebody who does that, who, you should talk to, right? And then boom, you're connecting me because you're working for my affirmation because you're a great person, because you value what other people are doing. People respect your word and what they're saying. And when people are saying that to you, you naturally want to help them. You want to make a difference. You're a difference maker in people's lives. And so when people give you that, all of a sudden, like, you've got these things. And as I tell people that in my world, I got them all working, for my affirmation. It's putting that energy into that world about that. And it's powerful.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And it's funny that you say that, because every time I'm on these shows, I always think of people I need to connect people with. I'll be like, man, I got somebody I need to send your direction. So do have a lot. That's a good thing about, when you do all that networking and stuff, you get a lot of people, you come across a lot of really amazing people. And, it's funny when I talk about, even with networking, that's another topic. When I talk about networking, it's, like I might know 5 people that do the same thing, but not everybody's meant to work with each of those people. And so, I think that gets back to knowing your strengths and knowing your people's strengths. And when you're connecting with people, how do you pair the right people up, right? Get the right synergy partners and stuff. So I was going somewhere else with that, but you made a good point in what you were saying with the affirmations too. It was good.
Love it.
Yeah. I love everything that you're doing. I love all of this. And, you got a lot going on. I know we could stay on here forever and talk. I like your energy. I think that's a fun part. I'm loving the energy because hey, listen, we do a lot of these shows and you're a podcaster. So it's always fun when you get somebody fun on the other end that you can engage in a conversation, because it does make a difference, right?
For sure. For sure. Jennifer. I love it.
So what I want to know is, because like I said, we could be here forever. You got a lot of good stuff. I want to send my people to check out what you're doing. So if they want to come get in contact with you, find out what your work's about, this Leadershipity, all of that good stuff, where do we want to send them, Trent?
Yeah, so they can go to leadershipity.com. They can go to any of the socials under Leadershipity or Trent M. Clark. Okay. You can find me on LinkedIn, pretty big presence there. And we have AIM for NIL too. AIM #4 NIL, aim4nil.com. And that's NIL education. That's all over social too with the same call sign, AIM for NIL. And the whole goal here, right, Jennifer, is to just continue to help people get better and help them improve their lives and build those dreams.
Yeah, you're doing some cool stuff. You're going to meet this goal. You're going to make it, right? We're going to do it.
Oh,
You'll
Come
do
on,
it.
like I'm committed. I'm
I
not
know you'll
interested.
do it.
I'm
I don't.
committed.
Yeah, I don't have any doubt about that. I'm seeing all your track record here. I have no doubt. Well, and when you were talking about earlier about your family, I'm like, your whole family must just be like this. You guys are just totally goal driven. I love it.
Yeah, I think when we talk about like our strengths, right, and they're the blessing, blessing. I call them blessing and curse, right?
Yeah.
And I had someone on my show actually earlier this morning, actually, and she called about the blessings and the burdens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And she's really really sharp, Carol Stiza, and I think that's the thing. We have these things in our events in our life, and like, hey, what's the blessing? I've got these superpowers, and they're an absolute blessing,
Yeah.
but they can absolutely be a curse too, right?
Yeah.
They don't serve me in every episode. Me being an
Right.
outgoing person and being fun loving and really easy to talk to people never really serves me at a funeral, right? Like it's just, hey, like everybody, just be cool, right? And I'm like,
Trent's
man,
the fun
this
guy.
energy, I'm
He's the
going,
fun
yeah.
guy.
So yeah, I gotta be the cool Trent. And I'm like, man, this is out of my zone, right? And then I think, the other side of this is that, we have these things that happen in our lives. Yeah. And, some of the worst things that happened in my life that I probably have some regret around, some choices I made that weren't great, definitely provide some burden, but also provide great blessings of lessons that I learned along the way. I worked with a number of people that were I would consider not people of the greatest integrity sometimes.
Yeah.
And all of us have had an experience of working with someone who
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't great to work with. And whether they're a good person or a bad person, I don't know if that's a great place to judge, but there's lessons in there. While it's painful to be there and it's not very fun, there's lessons in what not to do, how not to treat people. And so, there's blessings in that, and there's a lot of positives that come away. And I think people have to grasp that. And some of the best entrepreneurs in the world, they sponge everything. We're really good about getting the lesson when we lose because we want to win, right? And winners want to find a way to win, and that's awesome. But some of the best entrepreneurs really they really sponge out all the wins too. They get all the lessons of when it's going well. Why is it going well? Let's ask those questions. Let's talk about why we're doing things well and we keep getting more customers, or our orchestra sounds better than everybody else's, or why is that? We should know those things that power us and empower us, and the strengths of the team members around us, for sure.
Yeah, that's good, Trent. Good stuff. I could keep you on here forever, but I know you got things to do and I got things to do too. So I do want to say, we'll make sure when this goes out, I will make sure the website's on there so everybody knows how to find you. They can follow you and get you on the socials and all that good stuff. I'm going to find you in LinkedIn too, so I can connect with you in there and keep up with what you got going on. So I can help maybe cheer on your goal that you're trying to do there.
Love it.
Yeah,
love
good
it.
stuff. Good
I'm
stuff.
gonna cheer on the show too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have fun on this show. I love all the people that come on here. We have such a good time on here. And I know the people that hear these stories like hearing, they never know what's going to come out next week. Cause I'm like, they're like, how do you find these people? And I'm like, we have secret things we do, right? Secret things. All right. We do want to say, of course, to our audience, if you enjoyed the show, please be sure you go check us out. Give us a rating on Apple, hit that subscribe button on YouTube so we can keep sharing all these amazing stories. And I want to leave you guys with a final parting thought. Trent, I say the same thing every single week to my people. Same thing. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.